after 50 years, the fact that it's taken 50 years should blow your mind. But after 50 years, the University of Alabama have finally embraced integration. Yes, it took 50 years. Last week, the Alabama Student Senate passed a resolution supporting the complete integration of Greek life at the university. The renewed conversation about race at the historically troubled campus began after a black female student with a GPA of 4.3 was denied by all 16 of the school's sororities. An earlier resolution supporting racial integration failed by a wide margin, but public pressure at the university to respond to racism may be greater now than it was in 1963, when Alabama Governor George Wallace stood at the doorway at the school's auditorium to prevent 2 black students from registering for classes. America, we finally seem to turn the corner on racism when it comes to education. The fact that it's taken 50 years for this university, one of our major universities, when a school that's hailed for one of the best football teams and basketball teams, all this other stuff, should blow your mind. The fact that a smart, intelligent African-American woman was not good enough to join one of their 16 fraternities should also blow your mind. And while we applaud the university's decision and the students' decision to finally say that integration should now happen at the school, the question that we must ask ourselves is why, America? Why did it take 50 years for the university to finally make that change? What does it take for our country to make that change? Because people argue that we live in a post-racial society, but that's impossible for me to believe when just 50 years ago, the university made the decision to not integrate African Americans into sororities, fraternities, and sororities, and that decision still stands till just a couple weeks ago. This should cause pause in everybody's mind, whether you're yellow, black, red, orange, purple, blue, or yellow. No matter what race you are, you should question why it has taken 50 years for the university to make this change. Now, people continue to say because we have an African-American president that we live in a post-racial society. And people also will say that Richard Fowler and organizations like the NAACP and the Urban League and the National Action Network are all race baiting. But are we truly race baiting if it's taken 50 years for the University of Alabama to finally let intelligent black women into their sororities? I think not, America. I think not at all. I wouldn't argue that we live in a post-racial society. I would say we live in a more accepting society. But are we post-racial? We aren't post-racial till an African-American who lives in the inner city of Washington, D.C. can get the same education as an African-American who lives in Montgomery County. We aren't post-racial until an African-American man who graduates from Harvard has the same chance at a job as a white person who graduates from Harvard. We aren't post-racial, America, until we have a representative number of United States senators to represent the fact that 60% of our population is African American. We aren't post-racial until our country looks like until our representative bodies look like what our country looks like. Until we have 16 African American governors, or until we have 16 Hispanic governors, or until we have state legislatures that are made up of more than 1 or 2 or 3 African Americans. America, the only time we will live in a post-racial society is when we continue to stop talking about race, and we begin to embrace race, and we begin to embrace and celebrate difference. But until then, I want to make this point very clear. The only people that can continue to talk about racism in America, the only that continue to talk about race baiting are the only ones talking about race. If you talk to the NAACP or the National Action Network, or you talk to the Urban League, we will tell you we're trying to move our people forward. And we're not talking about racism, we're being about creating solutions. And you look on the other side, when you have all those folks out there who continue to say that, oh, you want this because you're black, those individuals are the ones that are race baiting, if you ask me.